MMA Rants and Raves, UFC 116, Brock Lesnar versus Shane Carwin. Guys, how many times have you watched a high caliber, highly promoted fight where people are telling you to expect this, expect that, and then when you watch the fight, everything is happening completely different than expected? And that is exactly what happened in this fight. Guys, let's talk about the fight. You see these two guys standing up. You see Brock Lesnar looking for a position to get inside, looking for possibly a takedown. And you see Shane Carwin looking to time Lesnar, looking to get a punch in there, to end this fight early, look for a knockout, look for some kind of opportunity. And then at 4:02, that opportunity came for Carwin. He throws a combination at Lesnar, which may have knocked a lot of people out. Lesnar just shrugs it off, and then he gets his opportunity. Lesnar always fearless, always willing to take a punch or strike just to get inside to look for that takedown, and then the opportunity came for Lesnar. Try to get Carwin down, but for the very first time in Brock Lesnar's career, he has faced a man as big as he is, and possibly just as strong. He tried to clinch with Carwin, and then they both got to the ground. Could not get Carwin down. Big, strong, powerful guy, stuffs the takedown, and then they get back up again, and then it happens. What shocked me, and probably shocked everybody in the mixed martial arts world, Carwin lands a brutal left uppercut, which would knock anybody out. I don't care how big you are. It staggers Lesnar, and then he backpedals all the way to the cage. Carwin runs after him, smells blood like a mad dog, and then just starts raining punches, elbows, everything you can imagine on top of him. I mean, I counted them. It was something like 56. Maybe you have a different number. It's really hard to tell. Some of them were blocked, but a lot of them were landing. And I thought that fight was going to end, because it just seemed that Lesnar was just covering himself up. He really wasn't able to protect himself that much. And that fight could have been ended right there, guys. It could have been. It was a good referee. I got to give him credit. He was able to determine that Brock Lesnar was intelligently defending himself. The announcers were saying he was badly hurt. The fight could have been ended, but it just kept on going. And now at about 2:31, the announcers were saying that Carwin is calm and he's looking okay. And I disagree, guys. Carwin looked tired. He was breathing heavily. And after that first initial assault, it looked like he was really starting to wear himself out. And then the assault continues. I counted it again, about 23 more brutal punches and elbows to the head. You can see a couple of them. Lesnar's head was just rocketing back from the force, and you can hear them. I mean, this guy hit so hard. We know that already. Just look at his past fights. Lesnar was just absorbing it, absorbing the punishment. Then at about 1:40, it just seemed like Carwin said, you know what? What's the point? Let's stand this thing up again. And he motioned for Lesnar to get up. Lesnar would not get up. Instead, just kicked Carwin. Carwin gets back down again. And then basically, miraculously, I guess it was the illness that Brock Lesnar came back from that they called a miracle. This was another miracle. I mean, if that was a miracle, this certainly was. He gets back to his feet, and then he gets Carwin into a Roman Greco clinch, presses him against the cage. I just couldn't believe it. And he was holding Carwin there basically for the rest of the round. I mean, over a minute, he was basically leaning against Carwin, and I was trying to figure out what he was doing. And then it just dawned on me. It just seemed that Lesnar had energy left, and he was just leaning against him basically to clear his head. Because when you get hit that hard so many times, you're seeing a lot of fuzziness, and you basically want to collect yourself and immobilize this monster who's just brutalizing you, to just get back your wits and figure out what to do, think of a game plan. So he was just basically holding him there. And it wasn't a cardio issue. It was basically the fact that he was looking to clear his mind, clear his head. And of course with Carwin, it was a cardio issue. I mean, he wasn't even looking to defend himself from any possible attack. He was just breathing heavily, just being laid against the fence. Lesnar was going for a takedown, and then once again, Carwin, big strong guy, just stuffs it. He could not get this guy down. Very big and strong, very hard to get down. And that's basically how the round ended. Now here's something I want to mention. If you look before the second round started, when the guys took a break, you saw Shane Carwin I mean, he looked as exhausted and as tired a fighter as I've ever seen. I mean, he looked like he just completed the Boston Marathon. He was tired, exhausted. And you know how I can tell? I mean, even when they handed him the bottle of water, they basically gave him the water to drink. He drank some, and then when they took the water away, he stuck out his hand to get the water again. Like he didn't even know where the water was. He was so tired. You could just see right there. And Brock Lesnar's corner knew it. They said, look, this guy is just extremely exhausted. You survived something that was just incredible, unbelievable, that nobody can survive. And the worst is over. Now the fight is yours. And the second round started. You saw Carwin breathing heavily, very tired. You see Brock Lesnar looking more spry, looking like he had energy. He dodged a punch that looked very laggard and slow. Then Brock Lesnar throws a crisp punch, which didn't land, but it looked like he had a lot of energy behind it. And then basically a 409, easy takedown. So tired. He didn't even defend against that takedown. He just basically fell under Lesnar. And these guys were grappling. And here's a brilliant strategy by Lesnar. I have to give him credit because he knew that Carwin is tired. And he had the cardio. He was looking to pass guard, and he didn't even really attempt much ground and pound. He said, look, this guy is breathing so heavily. And when you need a lot of oxygen, especially for a man that size, you need to breathe a lot. Now, how do you beat a guy like this? Instead of grounding and pounding him and wearing yourself out in the process, look for some kind of choke. Just choke this guy out and finish it. Because even if you can't get it fully locked in, if you could just reduce some of his passageways for him to breathe, he's going to tap. Because he's not going to have enough oxygen. A man like that, in this situation, so tired, needs a lot of oxygen. So he looks for this arm triangle. And he didn't give up. He was relentless. Carwin was defending against it. He was guarding against it. But he kept on trying to lock it in and get better positioning. And then finally, at 242, he got it fully locked in. And he just choked out Carwin. But, guys, you can say that Lesnar won the fight with a submission. I say he won the fight via cardio. I mean, that's really what it was here. That's the story of this fight. I mean, just about anybody could have got that submission. He just had absolutely no energy left. He was exhausted. So the submission was just basically icing on the cake. Basically, it was Lesnar out-cardioing Shane Carwin. And that's basically what the story of this fight is. Now, there's something else that really shocked me in this fight. This is one of the most shocking fights I've ever seen, and here's why. Here you have a beast, an absolute monster in Shane Carwin, who's been destroying his opponents. I mean, this guy has been knocking people out with short punches over a lot of fights. I mean, this has never been happened before in mixed martial arts history. Somebody knocking people out with short punches. I mean, look at the Gabriel Gonzaga fight. It was a short punch that just knocked this guy out. This guy is a very talented heavyweight with a lot of fights under his belt. Then you have Frank Mir. I mean, one of the best ever, one of the best heavyweights ever. Okay. And he finished him off in what, 2-3 punches? The ones on the ground, the guy was knocked out already. He was out cold. So, here's a guy with unbelievable power that's been finishing his opponents in just a few punches. And guys, I counted the punches. We're looking at about 70 punches and elbows landed. I mean, some of them were blocked, but most of them were really on the nose, especially that brutal uppercut. I mean, here's a guy knocking people out with short punches, and he has been knocking Lesnar throughout this fight with fully extended uppercuts and brutal ground and pound with elbows. A man that big. And guys, Lesnar just kept on going. I mean, his face looked really bad. Obviously, it was having an effect, but his cardio was good. He just kept on fighting. This Lesnar is a scary guy. I mean, it's incredible. And you know something? I said this in my other vlogs. Lesnar's chin has been tested before. I remember, this was like Lee at Gettysburg in the second Frank Mir fight. Frank Mir threw a fully loaded flying knee. A flying knee from a 250-pound man right to the face that fully landed. Just basically dazed Lesnar, just kept on fighting. I mean, I think, I'm going to make a statement here. This guy has the best chin in mixed martial arts and possibly in history. I don't think any man can take that ground and pound and that kind of punishment and not only not be knocked out, but continue to fight and continue to look good, to have cardio, to have energy. It's just incredible. I mean, that's my question to you guys. I want you to answer that question. How in the world can any human being sustain that much punishment and just continue to fight? And if you look at Brock Lesnar's head, I mean, it's really big, it's huge. Maybe it's meant to take that kind of punishment. And he's meant to be a fighter. It's really remarkable. It's really remarkable how he was able to sustain that much punishment. And now if you look ahead at Brock Lesnar's career, it just makes you wonder if anybody can even beat this guy. I mean, now we know something about him that we did not know. Here's a man that can take an unbelievable amount of punishment. His cardio is possibly as good as anybody for a man his size. He's quick, he's got the wrestling ability. Oh, he's got some submission technique. Wow. This was really incredible. And it's amazing. It's amazing how he was able to take that punishment and continue to fight. So it was a really interesting fight. I enjoyed it a lot. And I would like to know what you think about it. And I'd like this to be a shout box. I want to know what you guys think about Lesnar being able to take that punishment. It was just absolutely shocking to me. One of the most shocking things I've ever seen in a fight, for a man to take that kind of abuse and just continue to fight and look as good as he was. So I want you to leave some comments below the video. Please rate this video and subscribe, and thank you for tuning in.